This is Valley News Live at 5.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're experiencing one of the worst droughts in our history. A new drought monitor issued just this morning is showing much of North Dakota at extreme drought levels, and in Minnesota, a step more severe, at exceptional drought levels. It's the first time that level has been reached since analysis began back in 1999. Rain, of course, is what we need. We all know that, but we're going to have to deal with these drought conditions. So let's turn to Hutch for more details. Hutch?
Mike, thanks so much. As we head into our late week, the drought condition definitely is deteriorating for many of us, particularly in northwest portions of Minnesota. And if we could pull up Max 1, there we go. Take a look at this. This was where the drought index was last week. Focus on northwest portions of Minnesota, and we have definitely a deterioration of the conditions. Take a look at this now. Northwest portions of Minnesota, all the way from International Falls through the Red Lakes area and Polk County, including the folks in the Crookston area in that exceptional category. As Mike mentioned, first time in the history of keeping these kind of records since 1999. Keep in mind, we've been in a wet cycle since that time, but this is likely as dry as we've been since the late 80s. Fargo, Valley City, Jamestown, all seeing the extreme category of drought. For tonight, cool northwest winds will cause for some refreshing conditions by morning. In fact, some might call it chilly. I'll have hour-by-hour details on what you can expect. But, Mike, those skies stay clear for us heading into the evening hours for viewing of the Perseid meteor showers. So we'll toss it back to you now.
All right, thanks, Hutch. The head of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers was in the area today, and he was reviewing work on the FM diversion. He was joined by U.S. Senator John Hoeven of North Dakota, who spent the morning looking over the 30-mile diversion. The goal of the FM project is to reduce the flood risk to more than 200,000 people in the FM metro.
But you make sure that our citizens don't have to buy that flood insurance year in and year out for many years, and of course that's expensive.
Construction on the diversion channel will begin next spring. As of today, Cass County is designated as having a high COVID-19 transmission rate. The Centers for Disease Control made the update this afternoon, basing that decision on the average of new cases, positivity rates, and hospitalizations in the county. Active COVID-19 cases in Cass County are now at 242 cases compared to 20 active cases on July 1st. The fully vaccinated rates in Cass County for 12 to 18-year-olds are approximately 40%. 19 to 29-year-olds around 43%, with a 50% vaccinated rate in the 30 to 39-year-olds. Ages 40 and older are at 60% as higher age categories increase. The FDA appears poised today to expand its coverage of COVID vaccine authorization to a third dose for people with compromised immune systems. And while infections and hospitalization numbers are growing, so is the battle against mask and vaccine mandates. Alice Barr has the very latest from Washington, D.C.
A third shot of protection coming soon for millions of Americans with compromised immune systems. The FDA now working with Pfizer and Moderna to allow an extra dose of COVID vaccine for people with diseases like cancer or who've had an organ transplant.
This action is about ensuring our most vulnerable, who may need an additional dose to enhance their biological responses to the vaccines, are better protected against COVID-19.
The CDC weighs in tomorrow, and shots could begin by this weekend. Health officials not yet recommending boosters for anyone else, though they're closely tracking when immunity may wane.
Inevitably, there will be a time when we'll have to give boosts.
The Biden administration today announcing the Department of Health and Human Services will be the latest federal agency to require vaccines for all 25,000 employees who work with patients. President Biden also calling out state officials who are barring mask mandates in schools.
That this isn't about politics. This is about keeping our children safe.
And his COVID response coordinator urging more companies to keep their workers safe.
Through vaccination requirements, employers have the power to help end the pandemic.
But many employees are pushing back. In Southern California, healthcare workers protesting vaccine mandates, insisting it's a personal choice. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
While the political debate over mask mandates in schools rages, doctors are stressing they are more concerned about COVID in kids than the seasonal flu, and that the Delta variant has made the situation far more worrisome. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has announced that the state has surpassed 70% of adults 16 years of age and older with at least one COVID-19 vaccine dose. Health officials say that they've administered more than 6 million total doses in the state. The number of first doses administered per week is up 129% from a month ago. Back on July 1st, Minnesota surpassed 70% of adults 18 years of age and older with at least one COVID-19 vaccine shot. Some New York lawmakers are strengthening their push to change the name of the Mario M. Cuomo Bridge back to the Tappan Zee Bridge. In 2017, Governor Cuomo pushed the legislation to rename the bridge to honor his late father and New York's 52nd governor. But after the allegations of sexual harassment that led to Governor Cuomo's resignation, a bill is now being introduced in the state Senate in New York to restore the original Tappan Zee name. A similar bill is in the Assembly. Good news for those of you who drive along 34th Street South in Moorhead. The temporary traffic signal at 4th Avenue South will become permanent in 2023. Right now, that temporary signal at the intersection is helping to manage diverted traffic from the nearby underpass project. Area residents requested a permanent signal. It was studied and then approved. The current temporary signal will remain in place until the permanent signal is installed. Polk County's K-9 is getting some protective gear. A nonprofit donation will pay for body armor. The bullet and stab protective vest costs around $2,000 and expected to arrive within 10 weeks. K-9 Rex is one of an estimated 30,000 law enforcement dogs throughout the United States. Sources to be barred from much of the Tokyo Paralympics as the coronavirus continues to rage in that nation. Competitions in Tokyo and the surrounding areas are likely to have no spectators. A coronavirus state of emergency will be in effect in those areas until August 31st. Organizers are considering allowing spectators at the matches in the Shizuoka prefecture, that's southwest of Tokyo. The Paralympic flame lighting ceremony started today. Organizers are expected to decide spectator policies as early as next week. The Pentagon troops to the airport at Kabul to evacuate the U.S. Embassy, and the Taliban continues to gain ground in Afghanistan. Natalie Brand reports on the details of this very developing situation.
A U.S. official told CBS News the Pentagon is sending around 3,000 troops to help draw down some staff at the U.S. Embassy in Afghanistan.
We believe this is the prudent thing to do given the rapidly deteriorating security situation in and around Kabul.
This is not abandonment.
The State Department says the embassy is not closing, but that the U.S. is going to have a smaller diplomatic presence given the security situation on the ground.
The people of Afghanistan deserve an end to this conflict. They don't want to see 40 more years of civil war.
State Department spokesman Ned Price said the U.S. had prepared a contingency plan.
The international community writ large knows that the only way to diminish the violence, to establish a ceasefire, and to put the parties down a road to a political settlement is through diplomacy.
In the past week, the Taliban has overtaken at least 10 provincial capitals, and a U.S. official says Kandahar City is in the process of falling. The Taliban's offensive comes as President Biden announced earlier this year that U.S. troops would withdraw by the end of August. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
And the Pentagon says full U.S. combat troops withdrawing from Afghanistan is still on track to be completed by August 31st. Fargo Moorhead Pride Week is here. Tonight kicks off a long list of events over a 4-day span. Tonight, family skate night starts shortly around 6:30 at Skate City, followed by an LGBT trivia and karaoke at Rhombus Guy's Pizza, and Pride Vinyl Night at Front Street Tap Room. That starts at 8. The next 3 days include a Pride dance party, Pride in the Park, and Pride Parade. Organizers say the message of acceptance is important when it comes to Pride events.
We are people too, that we're just as human as everyone else. And so it's important to get across that message.
Details for each of the events can be found on our website. Go to valleynewslive.com. Everything is set for Iowa's first ever Major League Baseball game. The New York Yankees and the Chicago White Sox will be meeting later tonight in what many believe will reinvigorate the Field of Dreams legacy. For the first time ever, Major League Baseball players will be able to walk through the cornfield and play ball right next to the movie site itself. On top of fans watching the Yankees and the White Sox slug it out, they too will be able to walk through the cornfield, as it's the only way to the field.
You know, once you watch the movie and it talks about baseball and what baseball means to the community, you really have the energy to try to put this together. And I think when you see it today, it illustrates why we put all that energy in.
That baseball game will start in less than an hour. Have you noticed the prices that you're paying for prescription drugs? They've gone up. Later on Valley News Live at 5, what's being done to change that?
A look at how dry it has been this season. Fargo almost 4 inches below average, and this season Grand Forks about 3 1/4 inch below average. But those year-to-date totals mighty dry. I'll have details in your hour-by-hour forecast, including your chance of viewing the Perseid meteor shower tonight and our next chance of rain. Details next.